Hello Year 10 and 11. Welcome to your video that looks at how to write about character. We're focusing specifically on A Christmas Carol today and the character of Scrooge. I'm going to take you through a quick lesson in order to get the highest sort of point on the mark scheme when talking about character, because this is something quite simple that a lot of students get wrong. Okay, so first of all, why do novelists create characters? So you might think this is a really obvious question. You might say something like, just so we could be interested. Yeah. To make the story flow, well, you can't have stories without characters. To make the reader read on, classic. So we'll read it because they want to, or really valid reasons. Okay. Of course, novelists put characters in their stories to make the story interesting, so that we'll read it, so that it'll flow because, you know, they want to. So yes, but actually, when we're thinking about GCSE English literature, no, that's not why novelists create characters. We need to change the way we think about how we view characters in novels, particularly in A Christmas Carol. Okay, so here's the answers. So, are you paying attention? To represent a certain type of person in society, okay? Characters aren't created by accident. Characters are created to represent an archetype or a stereotype or a certain type of person. To encourage the reader to think about the character's personality traits. So authors, writers, they pose their characters in certain ways and kind of present them to us in order for us to think about, you know, why did they do that? Why are they like that? What is the author trying to say? Writers use them to criticise a certain type of person. Okay, I think we all could pinpoint a character in A Christmas Carol that Dickens invites us to criticise. And to deliver a moral lesson, which is otherwise known as the didactic message. So they help the author teach us something. Okay, so for example, Christmas Carol is all about redemption and the attitudes of the rich towards the poor. And Charles Dickens uses Ebenezer Scrooge as his character to deliver that message. He is the one that helps us understand that that is the message of the novella. Okay, so we got it? Brilliant, let's move on. Okay, so here are some key words to use when we're writing about character. And this is any character, okay? This could be in your Romeo and Juliet, this could be in your Blood Brothers or any other text that you study, okay? These are words that you can use. Okay, so let's go through them. So the first one is emblematic. Now this word just means representing a concept or quality, a little bit like the word symbol. So for example, Scrooge is emblematic of the ignorance of the upper classes. So he is a symbol for how ignorant the upper classes are, how blind they are to kind of their behaviour. Okay, so that's our first one, emblematic. The second one is device. Okay, and this is something a writer uses to make a point. You might have heard your teachers talking about things like language devices, like similes, metaphors. Well, characters are devices as well. They're methods employed by a writer to do something. Okay, so for example, Scrooge is a device used by Dickens to expose the selfishness of the rich. Okay, so essentially what we're saying here is Dickens has created the character of Scrooge to show us, to highlight to us the real life selfishness of the rich in the Victorian era. Even though Scrooge is not a real person, okay, we see the real life selfishness of the rich through Scrooge. Okay, next point, vehicle. Okay, and this is like, vehicle is, you know, something that we use to get from A to B. It takes us somewhere. So when we think about vehicle in literature, it's a way that a writer, oh, right there, a writer gets their point across. So Scrooge is a vehicle for Dickens to remind us that change is possible. So Scrooge is a way for us to get to the point, the idea that change is possible. He's how we get there, how we travel to that point, hence the word vehicle. Okay, symbol, again, very similar to emblematic. Okay, I would say that emblematic is quite a fancy word for symbol, but they're both really good to use. So Scrooge symbolises the consequences of an ignorant and selfish attitude in the Victorian era. So what does his character represent, symbolise? What's he for? What does he remind us of? And the final word is representative. Okay, one thing being a substitute for another. Scrooge is representative of Dickens' view of the rich's behaviour towards the poor. Okay, so he represents that attitude and that viewpoint from the writer of the poor. By the way, I do apologise for the lack of capitals here. I've copied and pasted it from a different font, and this is my first video, so please be kind. but you would put capital letter for Dickens here, capital letter for Dickens here, and put writer there instead of write. Okay, teaches me not to proofread as much. Proofread, kids, it's important. Okay, so now we've got the vocabulary. Okay, this is the vocabulary for any character in any piece of literature. Okay, it even applies to poetry. Okay, but we've got to get a bit more specific for different types of characters. So let's look at Ebenezer Scrooge in stave 1. So key vocabulary, key adjectives, key words to describe Scrooge in stave 1. So prejudiced. Okay, so he's prejudiced against the poor. He sees them as lazy. He sees them as undeserving. He's ignorant. He doesn't realise, you know, how his actions affect society. We can call him a capitalist. Okay, a capitalist is somebody who is in pursuit of their own wealth. Okay, and is happy to step over others to get there. It's the idea that you should keep the wealth, and the idea is to keep making as much money as possible. He's miserly, so that just means that he is quite tight with his money. He's not generous. We see later in stave 1 that he's damned. Okay, when Marley comes to visit him, he's chained, he's damned. Okay, when he dies, he's not going to get any peace, so he is almost in that hell-like purgatory phase. He's cruel. Think about the way he treats Bob Cratchit, only letting him have kind of one lump of coal and, you know, begrudgingly letting him have Christmas Day off. He's cruel. He's isolated. We have those quotes, solitary as an oyster. Okay, he's away from everybody else. And finally, avaricious, which comes from the word avarice. So it means greedy. Okay, he's greedy. He hoards money. What's he spending it on? Nothing. What's he doing for other people? Nothing. He's avaricious. Okay, so that's our key vocab for stave 1. You might want to pause and make notes and jot these down, as with the previous slides as well. Okay, but obviously Ebenezer Scrooge is a different character in stave 5. He goes through this change, this redemption, this almost revolution of his character. So here's some words to describe him in stave 5. Altruistic, that means kind of being truly interested in the welfare of mankind, caring about other people. Okay, penitent, okay, this means expressing sorrow for bad things that you've done, similar to regret. Okay, and he shows his penitence by doing all those good things he does in stave 5. Redeemed, okay, that means he's kind of been reborn. He's kind of come, that's another word I've used, he's come into his own, he's changed as a person, he's redeemed himself. Charitable, okay, so that means kind of giving, that means giving to others. We see him kind of right his wrong with the charity workers from stave 1. Benevolent, that is just a fancy word for generous. Okay, but it's much better to use the word generous than benevolent. Fancy. Reborn, very similar to redeemed. He becomes a new person. We've got that quotation, I'm quite a baby, in stave 5, which obviously has connotations of, you know, new life, being reborn. Humbled, so he's realised how arrogant he's been. He's realised, you know, the weight of his actions, and he feels inferior to them now. He feels like, you know, he's been humbled by that. And finally, moral. He's kind of got an idea of what's right and what's wrong. Okay, so again, you can pause this video, you can check the definitions of these, you can listen to me again and make some key notes. You might want to use a flashcard, you know. I'm Miss Mitchell, I love a flashcard. Okay, so how do we write about character? Right, let's have a look. So, Scrooge is cruel. This is revealed when he says to the charity gentleman, are there no prisons? This implies that Scrooge is uncaring and selfish. No, this is no good. Nope, 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 nope. And I'll show you why this is a big nope. Okay, I didn't even let you see it. I'll go back. Scrooge is cruel. This is revealed when he says to the charity gentleman, are there no prisons? This implies that Scrooge is uncaring and selfish. This is a big nope. Okay? And you might be thinking, why? That looks okay. It's got a quote. It's saying something about the quote. It says this implies, you know, nothing wrong with that. Well, yeah, there's nothing terribly wrong with it, but it's not a sophisticated, can't even speak. It's not a sophisticated way to talk about character. Okay, let me show you how it's done. Oh, before I show you how it's done, these are my key points. Do not write about the characters as if they are real. They're not. They are emblems, they are devices, they are vehicles, they are symbols of real people. Okay, they're not actually real people, they represent real people. You need to know that distinction. Yeah, they are representative of the writer's views and attitudes. Okay, so Do not write about the characters. If they're real, they're not. They're emblems, devices, vehicles, symbols. They represent the writer's views and attitude. Okay, so the characters in A Christmas Carol help us understand Dickens's viewpoint and Dickens's attitude. Okay, so let's try it again. Scrooge is emblematic of the cruelty of the rich in the Victorian era. This is revealed when he asks the charity gentleman, "Are there no prisons?" Here Dickens uses Scrooge as a device to expose the selfishness and the brutality of the upper classes, and so on and so on. Okay, so this is how you do it. Scrooge is emblematic. Okay, he represents. We're acknowledging that Scrooge is not a real person. He is an emblem. He is a symbol. And then we go on to kind of reinforce that here when we say that Scrooge is a device. He's something used by Dickens to show us something. Okay, he's not a real person that's wandering around being mean to people, but he represents real people who wandered around being mean to others and being selfish and being ignorant and being avaricious. Okay, you've got to make sure that you understand that characters are constructions. Okay, they're created by the writer. Okay, and the Queen approves. So, you know, you might want to pause again at this point and jot down or take some screenshots of this paragraph, because this is obviously not a full analytical paragraph, but this is along the way to being a successful characterization analysis. Okay, so key takeaways from this video. Use the character vocab and specific adjectives to talk about character. Think about why the writer has presented the character in this way. What is the moral lesson? What does the writer want us to know about society, about life, about these sorts of people? Do not write about characters. If they're real, they are not real. And don't give a summary of character description. Just think about why they're described this way. Okay, why is he solitary as an oyster? Why does no one look at him when he goes to the streets? Look at his behaviour. What is Dickens saying about the rich? What is Dickens saying about people who are abandoned by their family early on? What is Dickens saying about the dangers of being too greedy, too avaricious? Okay? So, your turn. What I would like you to do, I mean, if you want to, is to use the key vocabulary to write a couple of analytical sentences analysing character using the following quotes. So the first one is secret and self-contained as solitary as an oyster from stave 1. And from stave 5, we've got I will honour Christmas in my heart. Now, Whitby High School students, you can email me, it's A Mitchell, or you can post your responses in the comments and I will respond. I hope that's been useful for you, year 10 and 11. Okay, I'll be posting more videos on how to write about character for the other characters in A Christmas Carol and the subsequent literature text that you study. Thank you very much.